Good evening, this is the Oscar X over here with Brother Bro, and it's time to review Saturday Night. This is directed by Jason Reitman, and it has him in a very different form than what we're used to. The movie chronicles the 90 minutes leading up to the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live, and all of the chaos surrounding those moments. I say that Jason Reitman is not in typical form because, the director of Juno, Up in the Air, he's known for a pretty conventional filming style, but here you have this very nice vintage-looking 16mm photography, a lot of Steadicam tracking shots, whip pans, and I think it makes sense for him to really step up into another gear for this film because it is just such a energetic film. It's just 90 minutes of controlled chaos.
I really couldn't think of a better way to approach it visually, especially because it feels like those long takes where you're absorbing so many details at once wouldn't really have served the story to do them in little fragments. The storytelling here is very kinetic and multifaceted. We've got Lorne Michaels as the protagonist who is fighting tooth and nail to get his show aired. And what we may not realize going in is that there was a very real possibility that they would just simply not air Saturday Night as 11:30 struck, and that they would just cut to something else because the show was just in shambles up to the minute. He's dealing with studio executives, bureaucrats, and financiers, as well as just every element of the production. Actors walking off set. Some of the sets themselves are crumbling. And this is some pretty, adrenaline-pumped filmmaking going on here. But on top of Michael's story, we spent a lot of time in little vignettes with different members of the crew, cast, a lot of really fun cameos, fun performances. And so this film is in a little bit of a different gear than most other projects. And the style around it worked perfectly to take you on that journey.
I think the script did a really good job of juggling all these different characters and the types of personalities on set. The dialogue is just as witty and sharp as these characters are.
I also love that you, literally feel the ticking clock at every minute in the story, and I like that they chose to show it in real time. I also thought the script was great at injecting moments of heart, and they were genuinely touching, making you, step back and see the bigger picture of what's going on here, and kind of ripping you away from that minute-to-minute chaos. And as someone who didn't grow up with SNL, it sold me on the stakes. I was a little worried that if you are not an SNL junkie, you won't really get the film, or you won't really be able to appreciate it because you have to bring something to the story. But no, I think whether or not you're a fan, you can see what was at stake here. And I think what they were trying to achieve was different in ambition than the kind of SNL we know today. So it did a good job also reframing what SNL was in its inception. There were maybe some moments where I felt like that kind of radical style of comedy wasn't quite captured. They did show an Andy Kaufman bit, and I've seen that bit before. And in the film, you don't really see why it's funny because the timing is just totally different, and it's kind of a bit that's all about timing. I feel like it kind of played as though it was normal comedy and normal jokes. It was getting that kind of response. And so someone who's not familiar with that avant-garde style is not gonna see why it's funny in the movie.
The cast here is really a blast. And I'm sure that people who know the original cast members and everything will just have a field day with this. But as somebody who doesn't know probably most people on the set or what they're like, it was still a joy. I thought that every character had a very distinct personality. Nobody felt like they were doing an impression. And it's just one of the most fun parts of the movie is how many great performances there are. Too many to even name, but I do want to highlight Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase. I feel like he did such a great job capturing this character's one-of-a-kind wit as well as his ego. Performances like that, and also Matt Wood as John Belushi, really captured why these people were just one-of-a-kind voices in comedy.
I also love Willem Dafoe in this film. He had only really a couple scenes. It's not quite enough to, get him into a supporting actor talk at the Oscars. But his character was a real joy, and he had some of the more memorable scenes in the film. The score from Jon Batiste here was great. I thought it fit extremely well for what it was going for. Very percussive, high energy, foot tapping, a little atonal, dissonance thrown in there. Overall, I think this was really well realized. The cinematography, the production design, the music was all working together really well to bring this thing to life, and I can't really imagine a better version of it. I think if people have a nitpick with the film, I don't see how it could do with the execution.
I did come away feeling this is pretty much the best version of this story that we could get.
And it also is going to appeal to folks in Hollywood and in the industry because it's a story of believing that you've got something special, you know, that one person's belief is what it takes to make it all come together.
I'm sure the messiness to being on set is
the utter
so
chaos.
Relatable. I mean, this thing obviously has the appeal to Academy voters. I came out of this movie thinking like that's total bait just because of how well it appeals to the industry, and also like the craft is pretty top notch.
Yeah, and it's just fun. There's a couple undeniable piece nominations that could get like screenplay and score, and the editing was really sharp.
What I like about the editing is that the movie knows when to use longer shots, and it also knows when rapid cutting can spice up the tension as well. And the SAG ensemble potential is undeniable. Obviously, it's getting that.
I'd give this an 8 out of 10.
I also would give the movie an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What do you do on Saturday nights?